undisputed, no mistakes are playing big. In the end, you'll all.
What's that? Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
Well, you heard it here first. We are in playoffs week. Might I mention, this is the last XCFL playoffs to ever be played on Madden 16. That's exciting stuff.
Right you are, Ike. So, welcome back to the Mike and Ike Show, everyone. And boy, do we have an exciting show for you.
I sure feel like we do. Personally, we've got a few interviews lined up with some potential playoff candidates, and we kind of discuss who might make a splash in the postseason. So let's get into it.
Absolutely. First, let's talk about the level of competition that we've had going into this playoff season. We got some very, very good teams that are going to be battling it out to the last second. Do you have any idea of a front runner right now?
I hate this. I can't believe I'm saying this, but we gotta say it. NFC and reigning champion CJ Smith, Seahawks. He literally got rid of half his team, and somehow he's still in the playoffs. So I feel like he's gonna go all the way again, and I'm a little worried about it. CJ Smith's crazy, and yeah, he's crazy. So let's just talk about the team real quick here. He's first on defense in yards. He's first on defense in points, and he's first on defense in rushing. I don't know. He got rid of half his team, so I'm not sure how it's possible. But he's also fifth in passing defense. He's sixth best offense on points, ninth best in passing, ninth best in rushing, and ninth best in yards. There's no reason why you would think that he wouldn't be the front runner for the NFC. Russell Wilson, he's got a 3,738-yard campaign, 27 touchdowns, only 11 interceptions. He's having a pretty good campaign this year. Their running back a little bit over 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. Tyler Lockett's having a pretty good season. He's near 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. And of course, you got tight end Jimmy Graham. I know CJ Smith thinks he can run all the routes and he thinks he's all that, but the fact remains that Tyler Lockett and Jimmy Graham are a great connection. One of them has almost 1,000 yards. Jimmy Graham has almost 900 yards, 7 touchdowns. And then talk about this defense. I look at a defense on daddy leagues, and I'm like, well, this defense is pretty good. They've got over 30, sacks. The Seattle Seahawks defense has 45 sacks and 19 interceptions. That's insane. If you're creating that much pressure, you're going to win games. They've got big wins against the Cardinals, the Cowboys, and the 49ers. They do have 2 losses against the Saints and the Rams.
Yeah, that Rams one I fear is going to kill them in the end. Division rivals right there. But over to the AFC side, you got to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Kind of came out of nowhere a little bit. They had a decent year last year, but struggled a little bit when their coach went on vacation. So this year, though, they came out 4th best defense on yards, 4th best pass defense, 4th best offense based on points, and 5th best rushing defense. So they've really stepped it up this season. Young quarterback Blake Bortles has over 3,500 yards passing, 23 TDs, does have 18 interceptions, so little on the high side there. A lot of people expected either TJ Yeldon or Chris Ivory to lead in rushing, but they went with Denard Robinson this year, who put up almost 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns. Tight end Julius Thomas, 900 yards and 4 TDs. Wide receiver Allen Robinson, 800 yards and 5 TDs. So they're doing what they need to do to get the job done for sure. And they would definitely give the Seahawks a run for their money when it comes to defense. 44 sacks and 14 interceptions. So they're right up there with the Seahawks in sacks and not too awful far behind in interceptions. And there's a lot of youth on that Jaguar team, so they're going to be a force to be reckoned with for years to come. Some big wins. Titans, Packers, Steelers, all very, very good teams. A division rival in there in the Titans, so that was a big win for him. Did have some losses against a division rival, the Colts. One of the biggest losses I see in that list of losses is the Lions. Lions has been a CPU team pretty much the entire season, and in my opinion, is one of the worst teams in the league. So that's a pretty big blow. And then the Patriots, but Patriots are always a dark horse. They're going to win games they shouldn't win. They're going to lose games they shouldn't lose. So they're always going to be a dark horse somewhere.
I agree with your points, all your points there, Mike. And defense wins championships. And when you look at these two defenses and how destructive they are in getting to the quarterback and getting interceptions, that's what's going to win the game in the end. When you get to that Super Bowl game, when you get to that NFC or AFC championship, that's what's going to carry you through. So I think that's a big deal with both of these teams. But as we know, there is always that dark horse candidate, the good candidate that may not look like the best team, but frankly, they're going to show up and they're going to give some trouble to maybe the best teams. Who do you think it's going to be for the AFC?
Well, I might be a hair biased here, but I got to go with my twin brother, Ricky Vaughn's team, the Cleveland Browns. He has literally turned that team around from the bottom 5 to top 5, in my opinion. They come out. Defense is awful last year. This year, number 1 pass defense and the number 2 defense based on yards allowed. So they've really turned it around there. Offensively, they're number 4 in the rushing department, and that's with some downtime for Chris T. Michael. He missed a little bit of downtime there in the middle of the season. So they've really pulled that one out. And 8th best offense based on points. They put up the points this year for sure. Rookie quarterback, Lyndon Durham. A lot of people beginning of the season thought he might be a Rookie of the Year candidate, but his stats aren't awful by any means, but he struggled to put up some yards there in the middle of the season. He only put up 2,900 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 18 interceptions. One big surprise about him, I think, is with his blazing speed and his elusiveness. I think a lot expected him to be more of a ground threat, and he really hasn't been too much of a ground threat this year. He doesn't have very many rushing yards, few rushing touchdowns, so hasn't really been a threat there. Hopefully next season, well, there won't be a next XCFL season, so he better give it all he's got in the playoffs.
Yeah, he better.
Christine Michael, though, even though missing that downtime in the middle of the season, still got over 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns, so you can't knock that. Wide receivers, they do a pretty good job spreading the ball around. Chris Matthews and Cody Fuller both kind of came out of nowhere. Both were nobodies, and they both put up a little over 700 and then a little under 700 yards, and then 7 touchdowns and 6 touchdowns respectively. So can't discount them for coming out of nowhere and putting up some big points and big yards. Big wins they had were against the Patriots. They have skunked the Patriots. Well, not skunked them, I guess. It was like 34-16, so pretty massive win. Win against the Bengals early in the season, and then they've destroyed the Ravens twice, so pretty good there. Big losses. They did lose to the Bengals in that crazy sim in the middle of the season, and they lost to the Eagles and the Cowboys. So those are some big losses that might bite them in the butt when it comes down to the nitty-gritty here toward the end. Right now, I believe they are 11-4, with the Bengals also being 11-4. Head-to-head, they're 1-1. So I think it comes down to division. I think actually they're pretty neck and neck too. I think it comes down to similar opponents played, and right now the Bengals just barely have them nudged out for the division top spot in the division. So hopefully that last week they can turn it around, or if not, they'll be coming in from the wild card spot. What about you? Is there any dark horse you can think of, maybe from the NFC side of things?
Yeah, I've got one in mind, but I think we need to take a moment here to look at the skid marks and just see what change they've done from the previous season. So I know that you can be a little biased, but we all need to take a moment here and see. I mean, I don't even know who their wide receivers are. A lot of people don't know. Christine Michael, he was the backup running back for the Seahawks. I think he tossed him with like half of his team. So, yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible turnaround. I definitely think the Browns could be a candidate, and people better watch out for him because if you sleep on them, it's going to be a problem. Another team that I think teams will sleep on, I don't know why they're going to sleep on them, but I think they will, is my NFC candidate for the dark horse, Coach Jack with the Redskins. It's something about the Redskins. People just don't understand that it's a pretty good team. Now, I will say Coach Jack had a little bit of a rebuild this year, did some different things, got some different players. I personally think looking at the stats, I know we did sim, so it does influence it, but I think it took a little bit of a hit on his defense. Now, if he would have played the whole year, who knows what would have happened. But he's still the second best defense by points. He's still the 5th best rushing defense. He's not as high as far as the passing defense, but he's still got something there. The offense, though, it's okay. The seventh best rushing offense. So something you see with Jack is that he can defend the run and he can run. I said this last year in the playoffs that if you can run and you can defend the run, I really think that's going to be a key factor. So I think you better watch out for Jack and his Redskins. QB Kirk Cousins, I felt like his numbers weren't as good, and they aren't as good as last year. That could be influenced by the sim. He's got over 3,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, which I think is like 10 or 11 less than he had last year, and then 9 interceptions. Running back, Matt Jones. Matt Jones was awesome last year. I was going for the MVP. I was like, Matt Jones. But he's slowed down. He's just not doing as well. So he's got Niall Davis from the Chiefs that was let go. And Niall Davis has 729 yards. He's got 11 touchdowns. We've got Josh Dotson, their wide receiver, is 785 yards, 3 touchdowns. Just 3 touchdowns. Tight end Jordan Reed, 746 yards, only 3 touchdowns. Now, I do think that people are going to go in and they're not going to remember how strong the Redskins were last year. And so I think he's going to upset some team if they're not watching out.
Oh, absolutely. Someone's going to come in not thinking too much about him, not preparing, and they're just going to get blown out of the water, and before they realize it'll be way too late. But I think either one of those teams easily could play a spoiler role throughout the playoffs, and I think they probably will play a spoiler role at some point. Let's bring in, though, the likely AFC East champion, coach of the New England Patriots, Coach Derek.
Let me get him on the phone call here.
Absolutely.
The number you have dialed has been disconnected or is no longer in service. Please check the number and dial again.
Crap. Where did he go?
Sorry about that, folks. Luckily, I have a backup plan. As most of you know, if you have EA access, Madden 17 has been available to a few of us for a couple days, so we're going to discuss what we like and dislike about the game so far and see if anything interesting comes out of this conversation. So the first thing I have to address is just the lack of my ability to run. Running's my thing, and I don't know what it was about the game. I've played numerous games, played some draft champions, played online, and it's just, to me, the run game feels clunky. I don't know what it is, but there's just something about it that, to me, the run game feels clunky. Does the run game feel smooth to you, or what do you think about that there, Mike?
I suggest you play as the Cowboys, and you can run Ezekiel Elliott apparently up and down the field, no problem. Because that's all I found online is Ezekiel Elliott going up and down the field, and apparently he can also throw guys off of him. I'm just saying. But running was a struggle. I know me and you played a couple games, and I didn't have the big run. Like I could get the 5 or 6 yards, and I was picking that up a little bit, but I didn't have the big run, and I really feel like the running is going to be better long term. I feel like there's improvements to the running, but I definitely tried a few running backs, and I do feel like they felt different. So I think, Jamal Charles and my Chiefs team, I think he's going to be my best runner. I like Niall Davis a lot, and I'd love to use him, but I do feel like the drop-off is significant. I tried using him last night. He fumbled twice, and, you go into the stats, and the stats support that. So I definitely think it's going to be a struggle. It's not going to be as easy, but I think we'll figure it out.
What about I know this killed you the other night when we played. What about the interceptions? Do you feel that right now the interceptions, the defense is a little bit overpowered, or do you think it was just an off night?
The interceptions were beautiful the other night. I think I got like 20 interceptions in like one night. The game was killing me. I don't think that they're overpowered. I feel like the defense is playing better. When I was playing your Bills, I feel like the Bills have a good defense, so that was a tough struggle, and I had maybe a little bit of an off night, but I do feel like the defense sits a little bit better. The linebackers are definitely reading the coverage a little bit better, and maybe possibly making a play on the ball a little bit better. Did you ever run into interceptions last night?
I don't think I threw any against you. At least, not that I recall. I went and played draft champions, and I think I threw one, but it was entirely my fault. I was throwing to a guy that was curling, and he played underneath, and I tried to force it in there anyway. So, but I didn't know as much about it. The first night I played, I noticed that the safeties seemed like they were ball hawking for sure. So I don't know if it was just the game, the team I was playing, or what. But I think
Yeah,
it'll be fun. I think the defense is definitely taking a little bit of a buff this Madden, and I think that's a good thing, especially for our league that some would say is very offensively driven. So having a little more power behind the defense might be helpful.
yeah, I would agree. I really feel like the defense, you're gonna have to play good offense. The defense in the past has seemed like you've been at a disadvantage because you can't control them, and the AI just wasn't up to speed. I know that they added a lot of zones. There's some different coverages that you can throw in there now, and some different plays that you can choose. And I thought that was really interesting, and I like playing around with it. The one thing that we have to talk about defense and throwing against the defense is drop passes. I noticed a lot of passes that were dropped that were contested that I thought, oh, okay, yeah, that's legit. I noticed a lot of drop passes when they went to the ground, which again I feel like is legit, but I felt like I saw it a lot. Somebody would catch the ball, fall to the ground, ball pops out. Did you see that a lot?
Yeah, a couple times, but to me, it almost felt a little bit more realistic. I mean, I don't care who you are. If you're freaking Julio Jones, if you catch the ball and just get leveled as you're going to the ground, it's gonna be hard to hold on to the ball. So I think it was a little more realistic, and I think it could be good for the game down the road. I do have to say, however, that I don't know if it's just my first or my one night experience or what, but I'm very excited to get into the franchise and play with my Bills a little bit because there's a lot of changes that I definitely want to make. What are some changes you want to make with your Chiefs in the franchise?
Yeah, I haven't got to play with them enough and see them enough that I feel like the base team is pretty good. I'd like to figure out Charles and kind of work with the running. I'm not the best person that can juke at the right time or push the right button. I feel like this Madden, I felt like in previous Maddens, if I just had someone fast that got to the hole quick enough or got to the edge quick enough that you could make it work. And if they had high tracking, you could just throw everybody off. And I feel like this Madden is going to be more successful if you're a better um, ball vision, carry ability, lack of ability to fumble, and then juking. And if you have high juking, I really feel like you can be really successful. And, if you have Ezekiel Elliott, that helps too. What did you feel about the kicking? We got to talk about the kicking.
I didn't have much of a problem with the kicking. I mean, the initial kickoff of the first game I played against you kind of took me a little bit off guard, and I kicked the kickoff out of bounds. But after that, I kind of settled down and figured out that the kicking meter goes pretty quick whenever it comes back down. So, but I didn't miss any kicks all night long. All my kickoffs were pretty decent except for that initial one. So I'm actually a fan. I like it. I think it's going to result in a lot more realistic situations. I mean, previously in Madden 16, if you have a 54-yard game-winning field goal, it was almost a given. I mean, I bet it was made 98% of the time. This game, however, I feel like a 54-yard field goal is going to be a lot more realistic in terms of how many times it's missed, how many times it's made. I think it's going to be a neat little dynamic for the league, I think. What about you?
I definitely agree. I know a couple people are complaining about the kicks, and maybe not complaining, just saying, hey, it's challenging. I would agree. My personal opinion, I really feel like it's boring when no matter what the kick is, you're going to make it. It's even windy, and you can just move it, and if you're good at it, even without the kicking arc, you can make it. So I do think the pressure situation is going to play a role. I believe I read something about that it's going to make it a little bit more difficult. And I feel like if you're going to make this kick to win the game, that in yourself, you're going to put pressure on yourself. You're going to think about pushing those buttons. It may mess up your timing, and you may not make the kick. So I really feel like that's needed. Otherwise, it just gets boring. I don't know about you, but I didn't have a block kicked. I don't know how often those are going to happen. Did you have one last night?
Nope, I've yet to have one for me or against me. So I haven't really experienced it yet, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't know if that shouldn't happen every game. So I don't know if I'm negative about that. I feel like in our franchise, in our whole franchise, if it doesn't happen the first year once, then I would say it's not enough. If it happens occasionally, then I'd say it's probably about right. If it happens once every week to every team, then it's not right either. So I think it'll be interesting when we play our franchise how that happens. Did you play any overpowered plays that you're like, I wonder how this play works in Madden 17 because I know it's overpowered in Madden 16? Did you try any of those?
Yeah, I have a few plays up my sleeve that I like in Madden 16, and there's a couple of them that if I see certain defenses, I'll audible to those plays because I know that I can get guys open in certain zones. I don't use that play, but in this Madden, I did notice a couple of those plays. They seem to have been covered a little bit differently and a little bit better. So I think it's going to be a new learning experience for me, for everybody else. I think some of the traditional plays aren't going to work as well. I think some of the tosses seem to be a little bit less overpowered too. I noticed in Madden 16, even if you are expecting the toss, it's still pretty easy to get 5 or 6 yards at least on a toss.
Yeah.
Last night I noticed that I don't think it was near that overpowered. I feel like even if we weren't playing the toss, they were still good. Defense was still playing it and playing it well. So I think it'll be good.
It's hard to get, in Madden 16, it was hard to get your guys out there to the outside. If you got around that edge, it was really easy to get, like you said, 5 or 6 yards or maybe even 20 yards. I felt like the outside runs, I was versing Ezekiel Elliott every game, but I felt like the outside runs were pretty successful, and they weren't even toss runs. The inside runs, that's where, the people I was playing with struggled. I kind of struggled with the inside runs, so I got to get those figured out. Maybe it's just the personnel that I'm running out of that I need to change things up. I did try the fullback dive because I was like, I'm seeing if this thing works or not. And I don't really feel like it worked nearly as well. So that made me happy because I feel like if it's a play, I don't want it to be overpowered. I want it to be something like, hey, use this for a yard that may or may not work. It should be like any other play.
Yeah.
I did a couple like vertical type plays just to see against you, and you weren't expecting them, and a majority of them weren't working. I don't think really any of them worked. So that was encouraging. I tried some play action that I didn't feel like faked out the defense as much as Madden 16. Madden 16, the problem with play action that a lot of people question that rule that we have is in a long situation, if you play action, the defense really bites for that play action. And it still happens, but I don't think it happened as bad. You're asking about the Chiefs. What kind of plans do you have for your Bills?
Well, I'm pretty happy with my secondary. I got a pretty good 1-2 combo with Ronald Darby and Stephon Gilmore at corner, and then my safeties I'm pretty happy with. Heck, I have a plethora of safeties. I've got my 2 starters, then I've got Robert Blanton, who's not even a starter, and then I've got Duke Williams, who's not even a starter. So my biggest change that I think I'm probably going to make is I like to have fast, good zone coverage linebackers, and right now I really don't. They don't have much in that department. They got Zach Brown, who's just an absolute beast, but other than that, they're pretty slow, not a lot of ability to cover any zones, so linebackers are probably going to be where I'm going to do most of my work. They have a pretty decent O-line, a pretty decent D-line, good in the cornerback. Running back, Shady probably won't play. I'll probably be playing a little bit of Carlos Williams most of the time. I'm just not a fan of Shady, not in the game anyway.
Yeah, you gotta love that speed. You gotta get that speed on that linebacker position. So I know you love that. The last thing that I want to mention is the aggressive catch. I tried it a couple times, and I really felt like it was more fair that some guy that's 5'7" can't jump up there and win the ball over a guy that's 6'2". So, and we know that happened. I felt like the aggressive catch when I used a good receiver, an elite receiver, was more likely to happen, but it still didn't happen every time. So, did you have some experience with that aggressive catch?
Yeah, it didn't stick out to me as much as previously. Whenever I was playing Draft Champions, you could tell some of the guys I was playing, they were trying to play good old cheese ball, lobby ball crap from Madden 16, where they were doing nothing but drags and forwards, and it was pretty easy to stop. it just wasn't working for them, and then they got all ticked off and they'd quit. And I think I won 3 draft champion games in like a total of 30 minutes. So I think the aggressive catch has been toned down a little bit. Either that, or I think the defense has been toned up a little bit. So either way, I think it's a good change and will be good for the game.
Yeah, well, let's stop there because we got to play a little bit more. Let's go play right now. I think the defense is the name of the game, and I think that's a good, positive move for Madden. So hopefully everybody enjoys it, keeps listening, and let's go get our Madden on.
Absolutely.
We are going to do a fun new segment on the podcast with several XCFL members called Things You Can Say About XCFL League, but Not Blank. We have with us Mike from the podcast.
Booyah.
Zach, coach of the Giants.
Hey, guys.
Woody Sensi, our loser producer.
What a grill. I feel like I'm the only person that didn't get a great intro.
And special guest, League Commissioner Jim. For our first attempt, we're going to do Things You Can Say About the XCFL Teammates, but Not Your Wife. Mike, get us started.
I hate it when you ask me to go in a hurry up when it's just getting good.
Zach, same one. Things you can say about XCFL teammates, but not your wife.
Man, last time was crazy. That hole was so big you could drive a truck through it.
Sensi, how about you? Things you can say about XCFL, but not your wife.
When you get annoying, I just mute you so I don't even have to keep listening.
Boy, fellas, those could get you in some serious trouble with the wife. You might go in the doghouse. Commissioner Jim, save us, please. Things you can say about your wife. Excuse me. Things you say about the XFL, but not your wife.
Someone gets murdered, the police always investigate the spouse first. And that tells you everything you need to know about marriage.
Commissioner, I'm not sure that... never mind.
Well, that is all that we got time for today. Good luck to the teams in the playoffs. And make sure you keep listening to the Mike and Ike Show all the way throughout Madden 16, all the way up to that big old leadoff moment we've all been waiting for, the release of Madden 17.
Hey, Mike, before we sign off, actually, I got a chance to talk to our very busy commissioner. And, I told him about the importance of Madden 16 and XCFL and really closing that chapter. And he said that he would love to talk about the playoffs. So I didn't get a chance to preview this clip, but I really feel like after our conversation, the commissioner understood the importance of this moment, and he wanted to say something. So go ahead and run that clip.
Minute 25, play football. Minute 40, play tennis. Minute 60, play golf. Have you noticed? The older you get, smaller your balls get.
Oh boy. God, man, I should preview those clips. I'm not sure what to say, honestly, besides I hope since he doesn't listen to this podcast. Good luck to everybody in the playoffs, and look out for Woody Sensi's upcoming shows. Those are always great. Make sure you listen to those. Mike and Ike, we're signing off.